Welcome to Podcast This Escape, the podcast where we talk about the escape room that we escaped from in the previous episode of this podcast. Alice, that was fantastic. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for doing it. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
it was
I had
lovely.
a great time.
It was very fun. Lots of nice puzzles, lots of nice exploration. We shot ourselves in the foot and did it all in the wrong order.
I mean,
As I said, it really was a personality test. In the early tests, the room was laid out differently, so the bench was quite a long way from the gate. And I was like, maybe if I put them adjacent, people will go to the gate and find out what their task is. And more people definitely do.
Oh, yeah, look.
But you can do it in whatever order you like. It just becomes more of a sort of pleasant, meandering adventure with a mildly, annoyingly rule-followed wizard rather than a goal-oriented thing. And both are okay. But yeah, I think it's just a choice of are you direct or are you exploratory?
We knew immediately. It was like, that's where we get the quest. Let's get all our information first.
I didn't feel particularly hindered by going in a different order.
No.
It was just very scary going with one of the first things we got was, oh boy, this is a lot of information. I don't think it's quite enough information to say go. And then by the time we got the last bits of information that we needed, there were some bits that I was slightly forgetting, but that was my own fault for slightly laying out my notes in that way that I do, where nothing makes much sense. But it all worked. It all made sense.
And there's some fun. Like, it's always nice to, like, solve the puzzle like we did with the animals. Like, we saw all the animals. We saw they had names. We figured out what those names meant. And then went, let's wait till somebody asks us what this means and we'll tell them. Because we've solved it already.
We didn't really have much choice.
Yeah. And it's fun. Sometimes it's fun to do a puzzle that way. It's fun to solve it and wait until you're asked.
It might have been a different funny podcast experience if we'd gotten to the greenhouse first and been told, hey, what's my name? And then just mused on that for a while. That would have been different.
Grodicus.
I was very impressed. I was very impressed with the animal solving because most people look at it and go, oh, that's a lot of things. I am leaving now. And sort of treat that as this is the last tricky puzzle I want to do. Most people... sorry, go on.
Funny. I was hyped for that one. That was definitely my biggest highlight. I loved it. It's very much my sort of thing.
That puzzle was not initially in there. It's something I added a little bit later when it was feeling a little bit light on. But the first time I tested it was with my family, not this Christmas, but last Christmas. And my mum, who is not into this sort of thing, I think is a fair statement, said, and I quote, "That is the stupidest thing anyone has ever made me do. It is terrible." And everyone else has really liked it. So I'm sorry, Mum. When I said I was going to record this, she said, "Are you still doing that silly animal name thing?"
What was wrong with the animal names? That's a classic puzzle.
She was just very bemused and overwhelmed by the whole thing. But she did give it a try. So I should give her 10 out of 10 for giving it a try.
It's like very it's like puzzleified linguistics things. And you know that's my jam.
True.
Like trying to they make you do that at university in linguistics, but you have like foreign languages and you have to take words and they've given you a specific set and you have to try to pull them apart to figure out what means what in the word that they've put together. And it's amazing. And so, yeah, it felt very much like doing that. It's just that the difference in the real world is that real world languages, they don't make any sense.
Yeah.
But these made sense, so it worked.
There's nothing better than, Danny is on a lot of like language learning forums, and there's always people who come in and say, why is it like this? It doesn't make that much logical sense to build your language like this. Why did the French decide to construct their language in this example? Maybe French is the worst example because they do try and do that. But
French is reasonably consistent. Yeah,
they have a whole group of people who are like, do not allow language to change naturally. We are l'Académie Française, and we will never let you speak like a human.
But yeah, there are definitely lots of people who question the logic behind things, and people have no choice but to go, look, it just happened, man.
At a certain point,
we all have a meeting and agree in the meeting that this is how it shall always be.
We're not Korean.
Yeah. There are some languages that are weird about it. They did have meetings.
Wow.
But yeah, no, it was really lovely. I love doing that. I love doing a logic puzzle. A logic puzzle is always a bit of fun.
I feel like I haven't drawn one of those grids in many a year.
The grids help so much.
It was refreshing. It's fun to be able to see it again. And yeah, once you put one circle in, then you get to cross out a lot of wrong things. It feels nice.
How hard was it for you, Alice? Like you were saying you didn't know those things existed. You had some trouble as you were making it, being able to check it. Like, was that a difficult process? It sounded like a difficult process.
It was the hardest thing to make. And it was absolutely the hardest puzzle. And the tricky bit was, well, this makes sense in my head, but is there anything that could be that I've made a mental leap that I've not realized I'd made, or vice versa, have I put in too many redundant hints? And I'm actually suspicious that one of those hints is still slightly redundant, but I erred on keeping it rather than cutting it.
I'm pretty sure I had the final solution before checking the last one.
Yeah, that was my thought too. But when I did it, so when I went to try with the sort of first playtest with my friends, my friend Broderick just started drawing this elaborate grid thing, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
And he's like, "This is how you do these puzzles." I went, "Oh, I wish I knew that before I spent hours swearing about colors and shapes." So that was the most time consuming puzzle, probably, I think.
I recently came across a puzzle book from my childhood that has a lot of logic puzzle questions in it. And some of them are solved in different ways. Like some of them are better served with Venn diagrams than these sorts of grids. But clearly I didn't know how to do these exact grids yet, because you can see my 10-year-old self's attempts at laying things out in ways that don't quite work. So they're not very orderly, but
it is a hard grid to come up
system.
with yourself. The idea that you have to double up certain things and make, it's definitely one that is not, if you haven't seen it before, you're not going to stumble on that.
It looks like you're either making too many squares or not enough.
Exactly, yeah. And it is nice. I love things like that because, there's something nice about, there are 3 elements, right? One is, what seed you put in what dirt, and then what is the product of those things. And it's cool because it's you don't actually need to know the product when you're doing it. You just need to know seed and dirt. But the products then add that layer to be
that's
so that
how
you actually
can
have the
solve
full
it.
puzzle. To solve it, you need the layer, but then to do it afterwards, you don't it doesn't matter. Those are the results. You just need to know. And there's something cool about that. It's it feels like redundant information, but it's actually necessary for the logic, even if it's redundant for the action. And it's just, I don't know, it's something nice about that.
Did you, Alice, in your notes for this, if we had incorrectly put things and tried to pot these plants wrongly, would nothing have happened, or would we have made a poo plant?
You would have made something just kind of gross and yucky and underwhelming.
Excellent.
Yeah, I hadn't written it specifically, but yes, you would have made something that was close but not quite right. So I think for the bowls, you would have ended up making a sieve, and that would have been really upset. There would have been holes in the bucket. Dear Liza, dear Liza. And the chocolate would be really cheap, nasty brand chocolate that goes all carob. Or I'm thinking when you buy really crappy chocolate that gets the white film on the outside and it's kind of yucky textured. Yeah, so it just wouldn't have been quite right.
I love
You
it.
also didn't need to make all of the plants. I guess you could have looked within that logic puzzle to go, I'm just looking for things that I need for part of it. But I think going through that journey
that was my goal, but
yeah. But no, it's nice as well because you also it's also nice to have them just in case later on the room's now that you've got the water, you water the plant and the plant says, "Feed me chocolate, please. I need chocolate. If I do not eat chocolate, I will die." And you're great. I've already grown a chocolate plant.
I would very much expect that in a real room. If somehow this was incorporated into a real room, they would make you do all of them one after the other like that.
Yeah.
We were talking before we started recording about sort of international terms versus local terms. When I'm saying a chip plant, are you thinking of chips in a packet or chips that are hot?
I was picturing chips in a packet.
I was picturing packet.
I was also picturing chips in a packet, but then I was having it doesn't matter, but I was like, oh, I wonder what other people are picturing. I was thinking packet
I
chips,
suppose if it was the stem for that one, wasn't it?
Stem.
That could have been just one hot chip.
Potato chips, a hot chip, maybe.
Chip.
Well, I want that now.
Yeah, let's go get hot chips after this.
Okay.
Let's go down and get some hot chips.
I don't even eat hot chips so much.
I'm going to get them. It's going to be great.
I'm tempted.
Wonderful.
Where did you got no. Oh no, sorry.
Thinking of local hot chip places?
I am.
Hot chips are great. Hot chips don't get the respect they deserve when people talk about food. People I went to.
They can be bad, and they often are.
But people I went to this place or that country, and they have this great street food. Look at all the street food you can get. You're like, hey, have you been to Australia? Do you know what our best street food is? It's hot chips, man. It's the best street food.
Mm.
You just go and then you get hot chips and they're delicious.
Saying locals here don't need to undervalue our own street food.
Exactly. It's not better than other street food, but you need to acknowledge you have a street food culture. It's called hot chips. Eat them. They're the best. They taste delicious.
This is not the first time this discussion has taken place.
I'm just saying hot chips are real good.
Were there any other major changes that have happened? So things have moved around, animals got added.
A little bit. So the reason that I got you to pick your own birds of choice is that there was sort of a ghost of a puzzle that I removed early on because it wasn't very puzzly, but it still had little tiny ghost flavors that would then distract people. So initially, the birds would be different combos of colors based on what they had been. So the bird that grew from the cloak was purple and yellow, for example.
Gotcha.
And when they flew up to the roof, instead of the big daddy who you had to say his name to go inside, there was a series of dials that you had to sort of turn like a clock. And the trick was to look up at the birds, and they were all peering in different directions. And I thought that people would forget the birds were there, but they just looked immediately, and they were like, well, duh, you put them here, here, and here. This is not very hard. And I went, oh, okay. But then I took the dials away, but kept the birds being different colours. And because the room is already arguably a little bit too colour heavy, it just weirded people out. So this ghost of the puzzle had to be sort of completely gotten rid of. So therefore you were picking your own birds. So hopefully it was apparent that that was not important.
It's a good trick to be like, if you you say to them, this is your choice, then they kind of know, like, okay, if this is my choice, then it can't be part of a puzzle. Like, pelican cannot be the solution because I picked pelican, so it's not going to be there. I've done that once in a subtle way to trick people in a tabletop role-playing campaign when I had them name a character. They didn't introduce the character, or they just sort of named them.
But they then felt like
and
it was
because
theirs?
then they felt it was their character, so when that NPC betrayed them later on, they were like, oh!
That would be hard.
But it was my friend that I named! And I was like, yes, you're right. Yeah. But no, it was really lovely.
I did feel annoyed at myself for forgetting the mushrooms were going to be related to the path. So when we saw the picture of mushrooms, not immediately remembering that we had to alter them.
I don't think I necessarily forgot that. It was almost I don't think we're going to get locked out if we get this wrong. So let's just try the first thing. Let's just follow the path. Let's see if that does anything in case we have to use this thing later. I was fully expecting
I was very much, this is suspicious. There's something I'm missing, and then needed like 8 extra minutes to go back and look over my pictures to find out which bit I'd forgotten to consider.
I was pretty much waiting for that to be wrong, but allowing it to be correct just in case the puzzle came in later.
It was the fact that the word freedom was listed on the rainbow path that I haven't got that written in my notes, but that was very much the click to remind myself what we're doing here.
You were very good with that throughout the whole room.
Oh, the word splicing, for sure.
Of like connecting ideas very clearly through connected description or the same use of a word. That was really nicely done in this room.
I'm irritated as well about not immediately getting the first letters of poems, not just because sometimes that's a thing you look at right away, but because you did mention this poem is weird. But all I was going was, I don't know. Are you being self-deprecating? I didn't mind it.
This is the problem. Everyone else has not been wanted to be mean to the poem because like maybe Alice is just not very good at writing poems. I'm like, no, it's a very weird poem. But I'm glad you didn't get it. So I've been living in fear every time I play this someone would read the poem and go acrostics. Duh, that's a really obvious escape room thing. Let me check. Go straight to the door.
We do that a lot.
Yeah.
It was honestly. There was like a 90% chance that we would have immediately just tried the acrostic because we do that
I reckon
a lot
if we had gone anti-clockwise and checked the gate first, we would have.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, it doesn't break the room. But the nice way is then at the end, you're like, I've got the answer. It's 36. What? This wizard is a jerk.
Yeah, it works out well.
When I made the room, I wanted the wizard to be evil and wanted to have scary things in the room, but I don't like scary things. They kept just turning more into like slightly annoying and irritating wizard.
Sure.
Like he's just not very fair, which is also fine. But no, I'm so relieved that you did it in that order and at the very end went, hang on, oh, damn it was an acrostic rather than at the very beginning. And I was very frightened that you would not break it, but have the less satisfactory knowing from the beginning how it was going to work. So I'm really, really glad you didn't.
In the end.
Yeah,
and I think it still would have been absolutely fine if we had. I don't think
it wouldn't have ruined it, but it would have been instead of it would have been you thought you could catch me, little gargoyle.
And he does say like he's got a beak and he's got tongues,
I know.
So there's some slightly bird-esque language.
Yes.
One of my friends who did it was like, eventually she's like, well, he must be a bird as well. And I'm like, cool, how would you confirm that? She's like, I don't know, I don't care, but he's a bird.
Yeah, but that's why I was so mad. Like, I was drawing this gargoyle and you said that he was beaked and I just drew him with a more triangular face. But, like, yes, it was right there. You weren't concealing it. And that's why it leaves you with the great, appropriate, damn it, I feel dumb level that you want.
Oh, I'm so glad you liked it. I was a little bit worried. I feel like this is like, and maybe it's not a bad thing. It is just a thing that it's a fairly basic room. Like it's not got anything fancy like time travel or funky things.
Oh, those
but
very difficult to do.
amazing.
And like, I don't need every room that I do to show me some literal new dimension of puzzle existence. I'm here because I like stories and I like puzzles. And you delivered that. You gave me appropriate moments where I felt really good about myself and the moments where I felt mad about myself. And like, therefore, mission accomplished. Like, I remember that. I'm going to remember this happily.
Your solving of the animals was really quick, really, really efficient, more than anyone else who's done it.
Yes.
And I think the fact that you were very content, even though you didn't know why, like, nope, I'm going to figure this out. Let's look at all the different components, was very, very efficient and tidy. And getting the limbs, not legs, is important. The other thing I played around with a lot, actually, was the particular animals / mythological creatures in there to try to be really clear. So the mermaid is there especially to be like, she has no legs.
Yeah.
But she has 2 arms,
Yes.
therefore she is a BY.
That is a
was what
really
really
good-
helped crack it.
Yeah, that and the fairy as the way to. So it's like
yeah,
the
those-
mermaid
yeah.
is a good way to suggest. You're like, okay, definitely it isn't. It is counting arms as legs. Let me just check with a fairy, and yes,
Yeah.
great.
And that's why choosing a centaur is a good option for when you need to prove your understanding of it. Because if somehow we did just brush it off as legs, not 100% checking every single one to make sure, then we would have gotten stuck at
yeah,
that point.
centaur is a good. And Danny, you noticing specifically that those are the nth letter of the alphabet to make that was very. No, I don't know if I think that would have taken me a little bit of time. But no, it was. That was really fun. The whole thing's. I was like, the blue thing was interesting. It was like, all blues are blues, you idiot! Like, all blues are blues. And so I thought we had to mix them, and it was really nice that in the second one the blues were sort of unmixable. Like when we grew the West, it was like a good like
The North ones, yeah.
positive proof of like, don't just mix all the blues together because that's not a number. You know, it was really nice.
Yeah,
as
it was
well.
interesting that we both interpreted it different ways in that manner.
Yeah. I would have had to count all of them, but then like you had to stick the blues
Yeah,
together.
at that point, both choices were valid.
Yeah, and it was really nice to get
We got
something
more.
that positively cut something out, so it didn't feel arbitrary. It didn't feel like we had to make that decision.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, there you go. The room has shown us what we need to do, which is really well put together.
That's what I was trying to do. The other interesting thing is Jim Fishwick and Kirsty, who've also been on your podcast before, were 2 of my lovely playtesters. And Jim had an interesting comment about that puzzle that he was very clear was like this is a Jim thought, not a directive to go away and do, which is a great thing about Jim that he can separate that. But he said he doesn't like puzzles where you think you've got it, then you need another piece of information, then you think you've got it, then you need another piece of information. So he didn't like that you then needed to use the nose to clarify that, hang on, one of those reds is actually a blue. Because he feels like that hurts his, I'm trying to remember exactly what he said, but essentially that he's like, I think I'm done, but then I'm not. I think I'm done, but then I'm not, which is mentally exhausting.
Can be difficult, yeah.
Whereas Kirsty was like, no, I like it because it means that I'm sort of thinking and it's not a simple one and done. So I don't know how you 2 feel about that, if you've got a preference or not really.
Typically, I do feel bad if I have put people in a position where they think that they have solved it, but there's more information and they don't realize they need more information. That being said, the initial blue is blue, no matter the hue in any sense, the emphasis of the word sense very much told me we are missing some aspect here. There must be some more to it.
Yeah, it's the sort of one you want it to feel like. I like ones where you have to get the next piece and the next piece and the next piece to reassess, but it should never feel like, okay, but I should have had it. I didn't know there was going to be another piece. Like
It's like
you have
literally
to have,
building a jigsaw puzzle where you don't know how many pieces are going to be
right?
in it.
And so this is nice where if you forget about it, it's meant to make like this is nice so that you go back and go, oh yeah, sense was such a big part and I just ignored that. I'm the fool for ignoring it, rather than how dare you take my legitimate effort and ruin it and say, oh, it's not legitimate anymore. Like you have to be like, even if you did forget it, it should be, oh, that's on me. I forgot it. Yep. Okay. No,
So
good point.
there was a fair signpost.
Yeah,
and if
exactly.
you missed it, that's okay, but it was there and it was fairly signposted.
Which
Yeah.
I feel is most of the stuff that made me mad at myself in this.
Yeah. So like, I love a puzzle that has extra elements as long as it is clear. As long as there's something where you can be like, no, but I haven't thought about this yet. I haven't addressed this element. I haven't done anything about that. And that I think is what it's
I feel
nice.
this has definitely been a big thing in our Golden Idol playtests and trying to make sure that that is true, that people aren't having to jump back and make assumptions, jump too far ahead and make assumptions. And we can always point to the things that gave it to them.
Yeah. Like if people are trying to solve it, they should be able to go, wait a minute, but there's another question and I haven't answered that question. So how can I think I'm done if there's another thing that I haven't addressed? So yeah, like that's the ideal. And I think this fits that.
Cool.
At no
Because
point
we have
was there
that
a
real heavy sense.
legit. I didn't get any point in any of these puzzles of going, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, it's true, right? There's no like, yeah, sure, that's a solution. I guess that's the correct one. They all were very much self-justified and clear and like, this is what it is, you know? When the person's like, shh, it's like, great, I know there are two things making noise. I know if I shut them up.
How about the starting sneakiness right at the beginning, the letter R being the crown and scepter?
Oh, yeah, has that thrown people off? Arthur Royal. Or Royal
Only for like
Jewels.
45 seconds, which is the right amount that it should throw them
Fair.
off. Like I wanted that puzzle to be for people who hadn't played these sort of games very much to sort of wean them in before they got overwhelmed by the amount of stuff, but also to be like there's just a tiny little bit of brain space of it's not necessarily the exact literal thing. And yet there's nothing with an R in it. Oh, so it can't be free. Gosh, you keep saying free in a really irritating way, though. It must be important. Oh, maybe it represents something.
I feel like it was fortunate that this was one of the cases where I didn't redraw everything and instead just went with first letters that I wrote down. And it looks like you did the same thing.
No, I did it in post. Just
Oh,
for fun.
okay. I just started going, okay, that's a leaf. Let's write an L. Crown and scepter. Okay, I guess I'll call that CS for now, but whatever. B, then F. And then by the end, I realized, oh, I've got an F and an E. That's something.
Actually, that's a question I had that to me, design-wise, I would think would run the risk of throwing people off.
Oh, yeah?
The fact that it is an L and R, a B and F, and then two S's, right? There's a snake and a
Stars.
Star.
Which to me, I don't know if you had this issue. I could very much imagine people going, is it first letters to spell something? Well, it's LRB, or like even if it's LCB, F, S, S. Oh no, those definitely those have to have the first same letter. So it's not going to be anything to do with like same letters, because how could I distinguish my two S's if I'm spelling something out with letters? You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
It almost feels like it's trying to tell
possibly.
me.
Oh,
Don't
my
use
big worry
first
there is
letters,
going
'cause-
FSS. Someone could think, oh, you know, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then, oh no.
Ooh, that's
But yeah, no,
cool.
I just think
I don't
having
know,
two
never
that are
bothered me.
indistinguishable first letter wise might make someone say, okay, well, if I'm trying to
Maybe
use
the
first
first
letters, this
letters
must be
aren't
ambiguous, so I
something.
couldn't possibly do a first letter puzzle.
Possibly.
That didn't come up in any of the testing, but
Yeah.
it could. Some people took a while to get to the first letterness. They were being a lot more literal.
Yeah.
Of, well, I'm going to click fire, so the vines burn. And
Ah.
Fair enough.
well, the bird might lay an egg, so I'm going to click egg. And to the point where sometimes, for once or twice when I was interrupting and saying free, people were like saying, stop saying free, I'm trying to do the puzzle.
That's what
Leave
you,
me
that's what you
alone,
want.
Which was great, which was delightful. And then I took great smugness in just becoming more and more irritating about it. So that's not happened, but I guess it could in some universes. And it's an interesting question of how many times you play something to think you've reached saturation of not causing a headache.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, true.
God knows what
But no,
that
that's
number
not
ends
come
up
up in
being.
that way.
Yeah.
The other thing about, sorry.
No, I was just saying, yeah, that is an interesting one, but it makes sense. Like, because it didn't come up for us. I just noticed it afterwards. I was like, oh.
No.
What was the other one?
The other thing that was interesting for the bird is, Danny, I listened to your How to Write a Room Like I Do podcast very closely, and Bill had a pirate ship with a bird that was going to be talking in a cage. So that literally started from the exact same way, and that bird evolved in that same way. So that was a very good instructional discussion, and I kind of liked that the bird was still in there as a tiny little baby nod back to to that journey.
Nice.
But you saw how unhelpful nods to our existing rules and thoughts were, because we didn't check the door twice.
At no point. Apparently, if it's not a starting door, the doors don't exist.
Yeah, we don't even care anymore.
I thought you'd be all over it. And I'm
I
like,
know.
Cool, I'll hang up two things on the doors.
Yeah.
This is great. And you just didn't feel like they were valid doors.
They didn't count as doors.
Yeah, for some reason, you were completely in the right. We just forgot our own rules.
My one complaint will be, I don't know if the pelican. Yeah, I don't know if the pelican was grunty enough in the way it said free. Should have been more like how do pelican sound?
Ooh, I like it.
Would have been much less interpretable.
Yeah.
But that's what we get for choosing a pelican. That's
I
our
also,
fault.
I also said things were in the wizard's voice, and they proceeded to be just my voice. So clearly, the wizard has sort
I
of
was,
an
I really thought you were
average-ish
setting
Australian
it.
female's voice.
Yeah, you were setting it up. You're like, and then it says in the voice of a spooky wizard, Hi, how are you? I'm a wizard.
Yeah. I had thought about doing a funny voice and then thought maybe the words would be a little bit too hard to hear. But yes, no, decided to just lean into that. So clearly the wizard just has,
But if you were doing
Australian...
a silly wizard's voice, how would that sound?
Oh. If you can reveal to me.
There we go.
Excellent. That's Potter Puppet Pal's Dumbledore voice. That's a classic wizard.
It.
Well, look, I had a lot of fun playing through the room. I really liked it. At first, I started off a little bit like, oh no, there's so many things to look at.
It felt like there
I
was
have
a lot of things.
so many bits but it was very systematic. It all made sense as we went through the whole thing. Everything solved in a good order. We had a lot of answers on hand before we had to input them, which is always a nice feeling. But yeah, no, I had a really lovely time. Is there anything else when you were making it that was an interesting, like anything that was, or was it pretty?
What's your highlight?
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the room that you've put in here?
Ooh, I really like the animal puzzle. And again, you both just sort of smashed it out so calmly. For a lot of people, it's that feeling of overwhelm. And I think the interesting thing is you want people to feel overwhelmed, but not for too long. And usually there is clearly a pink and a yellow is a good starting point. The limbs thing can get people caught up for a while. So I think that's my favorite puzzle. And as I said, it was my mum and middle sister's least favorite, but my dad and baby sister really liked it. They often divide along similar lines, those crews. So clearly it was a bit of a personality test.
Did you ever have a consideration for not having the hyphens to separate the sections? Or did that?
I did, and I thought that would be too hard.
Yeah, it would have definitely been hard. I wonder how that line would be drawn.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I mean, it was also interesting to say that pink and yellow is the thing, because to me, like the thing that really sparked I know what this is going to be, was the fact that it was a snake, because it was like
snake had 3
everything
bits.
has 4 syllables, snake has 3 syllables. What is a snake famously missing? Legs.
This is also funny because you know which one I spotted first while we were going through and describing them.
What was that?
Wings.
Wings.
I noticed the wings first.
Yeah, that's true. It's because we had a discussion about the quality of one of those dragon's wings.
Could be.
The snake not having the last thing was meant to be a big hint, and occasionally people have taken a while to sort of clock that when they skim it. So I think that is my favourite, and it's meant to be sort of the most stop and thinky apart from the logic puzzle. The other thing I found really fascinating was experimenting with moving things around the room, because even though you can hop across wherever you like, you could ping pong a bit, and you did ping pong a little bit around. It's really interesting that most people will sort of ask about things in a logical walking around order. So it was interesting to play with, what if I move this here? Does that change sort of the highs and lows and the flow? So that was more just for me mentally to try in different tests to see if it impacted.
It's a good level of diligence to have, because we have talked before about how we know this is absolutely a thing, but generally the drawing of a room is the first thing I do, and I rarely change it from there, regardless of how much sense it would make to move things.
But it is true. It is shocking how much people in this audio like mental space where literally nothing is any distance away, you can travel any distance immediately, will still be like, well, this is nearby, let me just check it because it's on hand. I don't want to have to walk all the way over there, let me just finish this area, then it is interesting how much people keep that mindset in this space.
I think it's a beautiful testament to how powerful our imaginations are. And I did try for a couple of groups giving them a map. Which was you've seen how not great my Microsoft Paint skills are. It's not a good map, but it was, it laid it out. But I feel like people kind of, a little bit like when you said they named the character and they loved it, I feel like you love it more and you imagine more vividly if you've drawn the map yourself. Something about it, it feels like you've got more ownership of it.
I get that.
Now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like it. Well, look, lovely. We really enjoyed the room. Thank you so much for coming on and running it for us. It worked out really well.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's been I've been looking forward to it for ages, and the whole reason I made it in the first place actually was because I had a fairly intense job and was having real trouble switching my brain off after work. I just sort of left the office but kept thinking about work stuff. So it was really beautiful to have a mental project that was mentally engaging but was different. So it was a really lovely sort of, I'm not great at the term mindfulness, but if maybe not mindfulness, then at least mind distracting in a constructive way thing to do. And then it's been really fun to test it with different people and tweak it over time. So I've really enjoyed the process. So thank you so much for
do you think you're going to
being the climax of that process.
Do you think you're going to do it again?
Yeah, you're going to make another one?
I reckon I might make another one. I'll have to think of a new theme and see. It'll take some time.
That's
I feel like
okay. As you know, it takes us a while to get to people.
I think trying to think of a whole new set of puzzles, my brain's going, but I used all the puzzles.
I've done them
Obviously,
all.
that's not true. There are endless puzzles. So yeah, maybe down the track I will work
I
on a new
definitely
one.
feel that though.
All right, well, lovely. Thank you so much for coming on and running it for us. Thank you, Danny, for playing a room with me.
Likewise, thank you.
If you're listening at home, thank you so much for listening to the show. If you want to help support the show, again, the easiest first port of call, if you want to help support the show, is tell people about it. Tell a friend, tell anybody. Play it in the car whenever you're giving someone a lift.
Run the room for your mum.
Run the rooms for your mum. Just let people know. Jump online, jump onto Reddit, jump onto Instagram, make a threads thread all about this show because it really helps. People listen to podcasts based on recommendation. The other way you can support the show is on Patreon. We don't run any ads on the show. We just use all crowdsourcing patronage for keeping the show going. It means that we can make a show that we like. We don't have to worry about whether or not it's good at selling VPNs. So thank you for all of our patrons. Anybody who signs up at any level can appear as an NPC in one of Danny's rooms, but not this room. Unless your name is Rude Gargoyle, you did not appear in this room as a Patreon.
Now, thank you very much to Little Hugh.
Little Hugh, the patron.
And the pelican and the darter and the canary.
Exactly. Anyone at any level also gets access to the sort of weird offshoot stuff we do. Danny's been doing a choose your own adventure.
Oh
with,
God,
that
I haven't
can vote on.
updated that in so long.
There's bonus episodes for all the $5 donors. There's every week there's us solving murder mysteries or doing the play tests of these rooms and various fun stuff. So there's always new stuff there. There's a series of video content for our $10 donors. We've been reacting to escape rooms in popular culture.
Oh, the May one,
the May
I think,
episode,
is quite something.
The May episode is mostly
an experience.
vitriol, so I apologize in advance for everybody listening. And there's trivia for $20 donors. It's a whole fun community of stuff, but mostly you're there to support the show, to help us make money and to keep this show free for everybody and full and free of ads for everybody. So thank you, everybody who supports us there. Thank you for listening. Thank you for running it. Thank you for being there. Thank you for loving me.
We've
Pass the
already
turkey.
done that this
It's a
week.
Bob's Burgers bit. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.